Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFK Journey video. So in this video we have KULU and her entire skill description with their multipliers that we're going to be going through. We're on the Pioneer server, so do keep in mind this content is subject to change before it is actually officially released. Let's go ahead and begin with KULU. So she is a marksman, physical damage dealer with a range of 6, and her ultimate ability, Blast Mayhem. This will have 0 pre-fill energy. Passive will be when KULU loses a normal attack, it will trigger an explosion that will deal 80% splash damage to that target and adjacent enemies. KULU skills can damage both enemies and allies, but allies take 70% less damage, which is a heavy damage reduction. Active cast, KULU unleashes her fury, bombarding the enemy side of the battlefield 14 times. That is a lot. Each strike hits a random tile, dealing 90% damage to all units on that tile and in its surrounding area within one tile. At least 10 strikes will hit areas with 1 or more enemies within, and at least 6 strikes will hit the area with the most enemies. After the bombardment, KULU summons a gigantified Boomboom to deal 250% attack damage to all units on the enemy side of the battlefield. KULU only casts her ultimate if there are enemies present on their side of the battlefield. She becomes unaffected while casting her ultimate, and as she levels up, each bombardment is going to go up to 130%, and this is going to be 14 times potentially. So definitely with her ultimate, she has massive damage. If you are able to cycle this and allow her to keep casting this, she can get a lot of damage onto grouped up enemies on the enemy side of the battlefield. But the thing I'm kind of just thinking about, and I'm going to talk about it, we'll do a showcase in AFK stages as well, but I'm kind of undecided right now as to whether KULU is mainly going to be a PvP hero, or will she actually be like an upgrade for AFK stages, or do we already have enough, like, you know, damage dealers and crowd controllers for AFK stages that we don't need her? That's basically kind of the consideration that we have to decide about, because the thing is, as more and more heroes come into the game, it becomes each hero actually reduces in value because it has to compete with more good heroes for that same position on the team. So that is the thing to keep in mind. Is she going to be an upgrade, or is she just a side grade, in which case she is not as important for you to build? Anyway, let's continue. Demolition Zone, 11-second cooldown for the active, but it has a passive portion, and this is her defining skill. When a battle begins, KULU bombs a line of tiles on the enemy side of the battlefield, directly bordering the allied side, leaving debris that block movements on the affected tiles. The bombing also knocks back any units on those tiles forward toward their side of the battlefield. Debris on the center tile can be destroyed after taking 6+. Over skill power, it can be more hits, but debris on other tiles is indestructible, and it kind of forces the enemies to funnel through that central location. Whenever the center debris is destroyed, KULU marks the tile for an explosion that detonates after 8 seconds, covering it with debris once again, but it is an 8-second kind of window for heroes to pass through that area. So KULU active is going to teleport to the nearest enemy, dealing damage to that enemy and knocking them into the air. She then returns to her original tile. If the target is on the allied side of the battlefield, KULU knocks the enemy back toward their side by up to 3 tiles, or knocking them back into the enemy side, instead of knocking them into the air. And KULU is invincible while casting this skill, so like Rainstorm Valley of Lilymay. However, this is a much shorter duration compared to Rainstorm Valley of Lilymay, so even though this is technically survival for KULU, it is a much quicker cast, and so it doesn't provide her as much duration of invincibility. But this is basically about knocking enemies back into their side of the field so that you can combo it with her bombs that she's going to plant onto them and allow her to reset up her basically debris that will prevent the opponent from getting onto your side. So the thing about this is, like, for AFK stages, honestly speaking, a lot of the teams is gonna kind of interfere with your own heroes as well. Like, if you're running any melee hero, the melee hero wants to run into the enemy side, but KULU is gonna like wall them off, and then even when that hero does get into the enemy side, then those heroes are susceptible to taking damage from the bombs of KULU, but at a much like lower damage output because the damage is heavily reduced. But those are just kind of like the awkward things about KULU, which I've noticed so far in AFK stages. Like, is this actually a net positive, walling off the enemies and also walling off your own team, or is it like kind of like it doesn't really make much of a difference, or is it even a drawback? Okay, let's move on to Boomboom Bash. Boomboom Bash has a 14-second, that's a long cooldown. KULU summons Boomboom, which bounces 3 times between enemies. The first 2 bounces target 2 frontmost enemies, devouring them. And for the last bounce, Boomboom targets 1 rearmost enemy on the enemy side of the battlefield and releases the devoured enemies upon hitting that last target. I really like this ability. It's very unique and it's great crowd control. This is incredible crowd control, even for PvP. And this is something also I was kind of thinking. This also gives KULU added survival. Because like imagine there's an assassin on KULU. KULU is going to take that assassin with this Boom Bash and devour it and then transport it and teleport it back to the rearmost enemy you're facing. Each bounce deals damage, but the damage doesn't really matter. And reducing the movement speed by 60% for 3 seconds, also interesting. Devoured enemies are unable to attack or act, and can only take damage from Boomboom. If Boomboom cannot find a valid target for the final bounce, it will instead travel 3 tiles toward the enemy side, unless blocked by terrain or the battlefield edges. So this is a great crowd control, and I think for AFK stages, it can buy you time. For PvP, you can actually protect yourself and also crowd control the enemies. I actually am really a big fan of this skill of KULU. For some reason, it's just my favorite skill that she has, at least of all the ones we've gone through so far. Next, we have the Hero Focus. So the Hero Focus, increase attack by 10% during battle. Dealing damage to enemies will increase attack by an extra 1%, stacking up to 50 times. So this is also crazy. But this is crazy because it can be a bonus 50 plus 10, 60% attack in total. That is an insane attack boost you can get just from your Hero Focus. Like no other hero has such an insane stat boost. But it does take time for it to stack up. Of course, for her, it will be much quicker than with other heroes because she has like splash damage. Her ultimate hits so many heroes multiple times that she's going to stack this up quickly. However, it still is going to take time. Like for PvP, I mean, she's probably never going to fully stack it before the match is already over. But like, she's going to gain some benefit of this. So this is a really interesting Hero Focus as well. Okay, now we have Bombs Away, her exclusive skill. When a battle starts, KULU applies an explosive debuff to all enemies. And now this debuff, if you were wondering, the debuff is going to be 10%, increasing their damage taken by 10%. So for example, to put things into perspective, Rainier's Mythic Plus increases the damage taken by the boss by 25%. This is a 10% basically damage amplification onto the enemy. So just off of that, it isn't like KULU is going to be power creeping Rainier. Rainier still has a more powerful debuff by quite a substantial amount. But this is still useful, and this even gives us some applications for Dream Realm, because this 10% is going to amplify the damage of all of your heroes on your team by 10%, other than HP per second damage deals, which deal a fixed amount, which lasts until the end of battle. When an enemy with the explosive debuff is defeated, KULU turns them into a Doom Bomb that detonates after 2 seconds. This is for like AFK stages and PvP. The explosion deals a set amount of damage, up to 270 damage, to all units within 2 tiles, plus extra damage equal to 15% of the defeated enemy's initial HP. The extra, so 15% of their maximum health basically. The extra damage cannot exceed 300% of KULU's attack. That is going to be the limit. For PvP, I mean, it will be hitting that 15% of the enemy's maximum health. But of course, for Dream Realm, it's going to be capped at 300% of KULU's attack. And so yeah, this is not going to be crazy damage for Dream Realm or anything. Now the plus 15 exclusive equipment, like with a lot of Celestial Hypogenes, generally it is a pretty meaningful skill upgrade. KULU enters Blast Mania for 10 seconds each time a Doom Bomb detonates, so after you kill basically an enemy hero, gaining 35 penetration, okay, increasing her damage output, and expanding the explosion radius of her normal attacks, as well as her Blast Mayhem and Boom Bash skills. Blast Mayhem, Boom Bash skills, and multiple detonations won't stack the effects, but will extend the duration of Blast Mania by a set amount. That means, like, for example, there's an unstackable buff. She won't get, like, up to 70 penetration with 2 bombs blowing off. It's going to be 35, and then just increase the duration. Okay, so this whole exclusive skill, the debuff is really important to increase the damage of your team, whether it be AFK stages, PvP, or even Dream Realm or Ravage Realm, wherever she's going to have some use. And honestly, because of this debuff, as well as the fact that she has pretty high damage in her kit, and she can stack attack almost like up to 60%, for boss content, she's not going to be bad. I don't think she's going to be meta because she doesn't have like, she doesn't have high true damage or anything. She doesn't have great single target damage. She doesn't have HP per second damage. However, this debuff is going to give her value, her high attack value, and then just her high attack multipliers. This can actually deal decent damage to boss content, I would think. And for like Ravage Rum, like at the end of the season, if you want to always have the top pay-to-win team for Ravage Rum, I'm almost sure KULU is going to be in that top team because of this debuff is kind of too valuable to pass on. No matter which squad she's in, most likely will be the case. I think Indris and KULU are very similar in kind of a similar spot for Dream Realm content. They're like good, but not quite good enough to be like meta in multiple Dream Realm bosses. They might have that occasional use in one boss, one top team, but like generally for the whole game, they're probably not going to be the top damage contributor or hero to be using in your team lineup. But I mean, I can definitely see how it could work. And for Ravage Rum, definitely I think both of them are probably going to take a place in whichever the squads that they will be a part of. Okay, finally we have the Enhanced Force Supreme Plus ability. KULU gains extra attack speed and range defense during battle. If there are no enemies on KULU's half of the battlefield, her attack speed increases by 40 and her range defense increases by 40. For each enemy present on KULU's half of the battlefield, the buff value decreases by 10 down to 20 as a minimum. I guess other allies on KULU's half of the battlefield receive a portion of these buffs, benefiting by 50% of their values. So this is also really interesting, but this makes it even more important that you need to lock down the enemy team on the enemy side, because then you're going to have your maximum buffs of attack speed and range defense that is good for tankiness. And also, if you're going to wall off the enemy team, they're probably only going to be damaging you through ranged attacks. So this ranged defense of 40 is actually pretty meaningful. And all of your allies are going to have half of that, which is 20. So like, this is actually a really useful Supreme Plus skill that she has as well. So like, because of all of this, I'm thinking that PvP might be her #1 game mode. I originally thought AFK stages would be it, and maybe PvP should have survival issues. But she actually has a decent amount of survival in her kit with this buff, basically tanky buff. She also has the Devourer and this major crowd control, and then she has her invincibility when she casts her demolition zone. Right over here, she becomes invincible while casting, and then on top of that, she just has high damage. So yeah, I mean, I'm not convinced about KULU yet. We can take a look at it in the trial stage, but then I'm gonna show you in AFK stage like which team I've had the most success with. And like, even though I'm not at high AFK stage right now, I haven't leveled up my account, so like I'm actually fighting at kind of like a level deficit, so it should still be a fairly good test. So basically, this is the team which I feel like is the strongest, like Lightbearers with KULU on the Lightbearer faction tile. I haven't even upgraded the Lightbearer factions, and we have Siren and Hugin on the Stellar Bond, and we just have Rowan like basically gated in the back here, so that he's just boosting the energy of the heroes which we want. And I have the Star Shard spell, not even the seasonal artifact yet, and I want to show you what actually happens with this team. So the only hero which is melee that needs to go up front is the Lila. The other heroes are fine just attacking from a range, and Siren keeps the enemy locked down on the enemy side, also sets up the execution mark. Hugin provides that shield to protect the team, and Rowan just allows you to cycle your ultimates to keep protecting with the Hugin shield and also keep crowd controlling with the Siren ultimate. And then KULU just can keep casting your ultimate and deal damage. And like, looking at this, you might think, oh, you just breeze through the stage, but I was even running the wilder team like Iron, Tassi, Almas, and it was not really easy to clear this. So yeah, this is actually a bit of a challenging stage for me, and this team setup is kind of making it look fairly easy. But look at this, you have the enemies who have like these summons after they die or something, and they end up on my side of the field, which we don't want. We want them on the enemy side, but yeah, we can't get them all there, but we're still gonna get the job done. And I want to see the damage output now. Siren and KULU survived basically the whole fight. She was able to continuously cycle her ultimates because of the energy boosting from Rowan. So honestly, KULU's damage should be very high in this fight. And yeah, like, that was a good team, right? Overall, I'm pretty impressed with that team. And KULU did around the same damage as Siren. Nothing amazing, right? Not as high damage as you would expect. Like, because Siren generally doesn't deal the highest damage in AFK stages, so just matching that is not necessarily game-breaking. But still, it is a good, decent damage output. And it did wall off the enemies, and yeah. So, basically, those are my thoughts about KULU in AFK stages. I think this is basically a good comp you can run. Maybe new other better comps will come out later, but I really like this Lightbearer version with her. I think it's really good. And I do have a feeling that Lightbearer is going to be strong for AFK stages this season. And especially because we have that Siren, Rowan, Hugin, or Sonya core. And if you're using KULU, for example, you want to have like this crazy crowd control from Siren, permanently locking the enemies in the enemy side of the field. And like, look at this. Like, this is pretty one-sided, this match here. Very easy clear. Let's take a look at the damage output here. That is going to be... So, Siren actually ended up dealing the most damage there, but KULU is fine. So that's kind of the thing. Is KULU necessary a must-have? I don't think so. I think actually the only area I can think that she's actually going to be best in is Ravage Realm as of right now. I mean, as a Paragon 4, I'm sure in PvP she's going to have usages, but for most people, they can't invest that much into Celestial Hypogean, or they should at least wait and see until that hero is guaranteed to be top tier in PvP. But overall, I think KULU is definitely a cool character, a lot of cool mechanics in her skill kit. And I am a fan of her. However, I would also think that she's basically a pass at this point for the majority of players. And even for the players who are thinking about recruiting her, I would probably wait and see until she proves her usage a bit before actually going in and recruiting for her. And yeah, because if all it is going to be Ravage Realm, you can wait until the end of the season for that. There's no pressure with Celestial Hypogeans to rush for them. But anyway, guys, let me know your opinions on KULU in the comment section down below. What did you think about her? Is there anything I missed about talking about? Please let me know. And if you guys are not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please smash that subscribe button. Also, feel free to join my AFK Journey Discord server. There's a link to that in the description of this video. And finally, if you're thinking about making a purchase in AFK Journey, please use my affiliate link for the official Farlight store. The link will be in the description of this video and a pinned comment. By using the link, no extra cost to you. You will support me and also gain 5% bonus dragon crystals on your purchase, because that is how the Farlight store works. But thanks for watching. I'll hopefully see you in the next video. And until then, everyone, peace out for now.